Hi guys, today I'm going to be looking at some of the features in Outlook that I use in the business environment. A few tips of just how to make better use of it and maybe make your lives a little bit more efficient. I'm going to be using in this demonstration Outlook 2019. All of the features and functionality that you'll be seeing today is actually very, very similar, almost identical in Outlook 2016. Okay, so let's go first with the default view in Outlook. When you first fire up Outlook, um, you will be in something called Mail View by default, and generally you'll have a quite narrow list of emails uh, displayed and with a sort of large preview pane to the right hand side, which is great. You can see the content of the email and actually reply directly from here without having to open the message itself. But one of the first things I want to look at is, if you notice here, Outlook by default uses this thing called Focus View. Now, Focus View is sort of semi-intelligent functionality put into Outlook by Microsoft, which tends to group messages of a particular thread together. And one of the problems that we get quite often on help desk is people ringing in saying, "Look, I can't find the message. I didn't get a reply." And what we tend to find is that that's actually because Focus View has stopped things coming in just in list format in date order and group the responses together. So pretty much all the time I'll just go ahead and just disable that, and that's done from the View tab. It should be an option there for Show Focused Inbox, and I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Okay. Um, so again, coming back to this mail view, mail view is like a sort of just displays the mail folders within Outlook, which is okay for some people. But what I like to do is to see all the folders in Outlook, including my tasks, calendar, etc., just in one list, so that I can quickly see where to navigate to. I'll go ahead and change that by switching the three dots down the bottom and switching to folder view. And now I get a bit more here, so I can quickly, switch to my calendar, I switch to my tasks, and go back to my inbox here. Okay, so that's the first thing, folder view. Uh, One of the things that's quite handy with Outlook is it has something called task pane. And what you can do if you go to the view menu and look at to-do bar, I'm going to select tasks. I'm also going to select calendar. And what that then does is give me up and coming appointments with the calendar, but also allows me to see items that I've either flagged for follow-up or allow me to create new tasks. And creating a new task is very simple. Call Adam re Outlook. And what I do is I actually uh, prefix the particular thing that I'm writing about, or particular reminder that I'm setting, with words like call, do, just so that I can, quickly see that what the action is there without having to read all the stuff on there. Equally, I can flag, if I flag something in my inbox for follow-up, look at that for tomorrow, it's going to push something into the task pane for me. And if I act on this and do complete the action, all I need to do here is just mark this as complete, and it'll disappear. So a good way of making notes if you're quite busy, take a lot of people ringing in to you, or getting emails that you need to respond on. Just a quick way of just getting your to-dos noted up. Okay. So another thing that I do, which you may find quite helpful, is this compressed view of the inbox. I find a little bit sort of difficult to work with because there's some information there that I'm missing. So what I do is I actually move my reading pane to the bottom. which then allows this inbox view to be extended. And that then allows me to do things like categorize my email. Again, it's personal preference. You can move the preview pane to the right-hand side and still get the categories up there, but this is just the one that I prefer. Again, it's personal preference. So if you are quite a busy inbox, categories can be used. Outlook comes with some defaults, but you can give these labels yourself. So if I was to say red category, let's rename that. Let's rename that. There's something needs to action. An orange category. Let's rename that to something we need to discuss. Then what you can do as you're working through your inbox day to day is you can just choose something you need to action, something you need to discuss. And then when you come back to it, if you've got quite a busy inbox, obviously this inbox is quite empty because it's just a demo that I've created just for the purposes of doing this video. But what you can do as a glance is just scroll up and down and see things that you've tagged. Makes it a bit easier to come back and sort of get things done. Okay, so the next piece of functionality that I want to talk about, which is quite common, a mistake made by some people, is that when they're creating a mail message, the default is that they have the to in the CC field. So you'll be creating a message to somebody, maybe CCing somebody. But there are situations when you're sending out a message to a lot of recipients and you don't actually want people to be able to see who the other recipients of your message are. And to use that, we use the BCC field or blind carbon copy, and we can just go ahead and enter a number of people into this list. Let's make one up here. Oh, special offers. So that's something maybe like from sales point of view, we'd be sending out to a number of clients. We don't necessarily want them to see who the other recipients are. So go ahead and send that. And what you're going to get is when it comes into the inbox, you can see who it came from, you can see the subject, but you can't see who it was sent to. So quite handy there. Another feature that again not so much commonly used, but I use it, and you might find this quite useful, is we sometimes work with people in other time zones, and America, for example, works 5 hours behind us, and you might want particular messages to arrive as people are actually sat at the desk rather than in a big list of emails from the night previous or the day to come, depending on which time zones you're working in. So what you can do is create messages and tell Outlook when you want those delivered, so to be delivered. So you can select delivery delay. And in this example, this message, if I let this go, is not going to go out till 5 o'clock, but I'm going to go ahead and change that to 3 o'clock. And so test your file. And now if I click send, we're going to go into sent items, and you'll see that that message isn't there. But if you go to outbox, you can see that this one's waiting to go. Important thing to remember with this is that if you close Outlook down, this message won't send at 3 o'clock. Outlook needs to be running in order to get its piece of information that tells it to send that message out at 3 o'clock. If you happen to close your Outlook down and come back and you've say at 4 o'clock and you've got a number of messages that were supposed to go at 3, what's going to happen as soon as Outlook fires up, it will realize that those times have passed, and it's going to send those messages out at that time that you actually open Outlook up. So just something worth bearing in mind. Okay, next, I want to look at simple feature, actually quite useful. Not too many people use this, but I have seen people using this quite extensively, and I thought that's pretty cool. And that is occasionally we want to send out messages which are real just quick responders. You don't really want an extensive reply. Here's an example of one of those. Wants to join me for lunch. Um, and I can, if I before I send that, if I use the options and go to use voting buttons, um, it, in this example, I'm going to use yes, no, but basically I'll send some buttons on this email and create a poll or a vote for the recipients. And obviously, normally there's been a lot more people in there, but I'll send that message out. Message gone. What will happen is the recipient gets this little icon here which says this message includes voting buttons. So rather than drafting a whole reply to you that's not necessary, they can just vote yes or no. And if I click yes, what will happen is the message will automatically be sent. Now, sending out to a number of people, you might want to, just obviously quickly see the responses. And if you go back to sent items um, and see the message that you sent out and open that, if you go to message tracking, it actually collates all those responses for you. So an easy way to send out a group message where you just want a really quick reply. Okay. Next thing to talk about, which is just a real small feature, but saves you a couple of clicks in a day, is up at the top of the screen. There is something called the Quick Access toolbar, and people uh, typically will print off or forward on messages to people, but generally printing. And to do a print in Outlook, you really have to sort of open up the message, go to File, go to Print, and then select your printer. What the Quick Access toolbar allows us to do is to just put an icon such as Print there. There are other ones in that list, as you can see. More commands will have a look in there. There's quite a few different things that you can do. I'm just going to use print for this example, and what that'll do is that if I've got a message selected there, literally just print it for me. Take me straight through save me a couple of clicks in a day. Okay. Okay. So lastly, just want to talk about search features within Outlook. What I tend to find is that people tend to create a lot of subfolders within Outlook, and they use that to group emails from certain people together. A good example where I find this useful, and it's probably a reason to have it there, is people that are working within Purchase Ledger, where they want to have a folder for each supplier, so they can move items into those folders and keep all the invoices and contracts and things like that together. However, I don't work in Purchase Ledger, and I do have lots of customers, but don't want to go to the effort of creating folders. An Outlook search feature, which is installed by default in Outlook, actually allows you to not have to go through that filing exercise. So, for example, you can type anything in here, invoice. And within a fraction of a second, Outlook is going to bring back all the emails with the word invoice. It also goes to the effort of highlighting in there. This feature can work on quite a large inbox. It uses something called indexing service, so it does work. And it's probably worth also bearing in mind that this search feature will also look within PDF and Excel attachments Word documents, etc. So if you're looking for a particular purchase order number or a particular serial number, or um, uh, a sort of it's more than one word example. Oh, keyboard. Uh, it will bring back all those items for you pretty quickly, which saves the effort of actually going through and manually filing away. I just don't bother doing it anymore. Not necessary. Um, I guess for sort of neat freaks and people that really want to see a clean inbox, they're gonna say, yeah, well, I like to file, but actually file away and have nothing in here. They want to file away. But actually, once you start building up a long list here, if you're using the preview pane at the bottom, you don't actually see those previous messages. So I think it's just one of those things that you just sort of get used to, and the time it saves you filing away can be used to do something else. So yeah, for sure. Uh, the last thing that I want to talk about is more to do with good practice and keeping Outlook performing really well for you. Is again these same sort of people that file away. Some people actually use the deleted items as a filing cabinet, and what they'll do is if they've dealt with a particular thing, they'll just press delete and so on and so forth, and that's how they sort of in their mind sort of keep things sort of neat. But there's a mistake in doing that. What happens is you will get other emails coming into your inbox which are actually really junk or things that you subscribe to, and you'll just click delete on those too. And what that means is that you've now then got a mixture of good emails that you want to keep for later, mixed with emails that you don't really want at all. And the downside of that is that means that your Outlook data continually grows. And also then slows down. Outlook works in a way that um, it continually checks the contents of each folder against the server. So the more you have in those folders, the longer it takes to do that. In extreme example, where you've got a very large mailbox with lots and lots and lots of subfolders that have been created, it's trying to do its job of checking the contents of each folder to make sure nothing's been moved, changed, altered, forwarded, deleted, whatever. Um, and that whole process can cause Outlook to grey out slightly and not respond as quick as it should be. So, yeah, best advice is use deleted items as deleted items and empty it periodically, and that's going to keep your inbox nice and trim. Okay, I think that's about it. But then thanks for watching. Obviously, email me with any sort of other queries that you may have about Outlook functionality. Thanks for watching. Cheers, bye.